Hello, world, and welcome to our fancy new threads. This is Momentous Live, episode 120. I'm Tristan Jutra.
I'm Tasia Custodi.
I'm Gray Williams.
I'm Will Silver.
And are all of us on threads now? I think so. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We love our part-time jobs as seamstresses here on Momentous Live, and we'll get talk about all our favorite threads. But first, let's do a little bit of follow-up, talking about the ongoing Reddit drama, aka who's going to blink first. All I have to do is queue up the screen sharing, which I neglected to do because after 120 episodes, I'm still kind of bad at my job. Here we go.
It's a non-paying job, so don't worry.
That's right. I'm earning every penny of this. Gray, what's happening in the showdown between Reddit and the moderators who are blacking things out in protest of the API changes and the charging the third-party apps to, and all the things that we've been talking about the last couple of weeks? What's happening now? Does anyone still care anymore?
I think people do still care. A bunch of us who are moderators of different subreddits have been given notice that we will be evicted from our volunteer positions as moderators if we do not bring our subreddits back online. And so some have decided to, like myself, bring the subreddit back online, but basically moderate every single post out of existence. That's malicious compliance at its best, I think. Because it doesn't really seem to fit. It really doesn't seem to fit my idea of what's going on with this subreddit. So if I can't take it private, then I'll take it stupid. And so we've seen other subreddits like Cyberpunk 2077 has decided they will become an NSFW subreddit, a not safe for work subreddit. And so basically what they've done here is that they're actually keeping it on topic with the game by using mod patches, modifier patches in game to make in-game characters nude, and then So it's on topic, and it is NSFW. So Reddit is really kind of doing the free speech, but only that they were words that I like type of thing. We're also seeing different subreddits who have changed the nature of their community. Apollo, unfortunately, it's sad, but it's dead. As an app, it is gone, and so. On, I believe it's June 29th or June 30th, Christian Selig shut it down. He's released Pixel Pals, which was integrated into Apollo before as a separate app. To be honest, my Reddit time is down 99%. And that's saying something. This Reddit was probably my number one used website / tool on the internet. And I am spending a lot more time on YouTube. And of course, a certain other social media app that's not Twitter.
So Will and I last week talked a little bit about the whole NSFW tag being applied to non-NSFW subreddits out there. But apparently, Reddit is now removing the NSFW label from subreddits that it feels shouldn't have that label. So what do you think is going to happen with that? Because the whole idea with the NSFW label is that it would deny the opportunity to have advertisements shown, thus denying that revenue to Reddit. So if Reddit is now removing the NSFW, the not safe for work tag, from some of these subreddits, how do you think the moderators are going to respond to that?
Well, they can do a couple of different things, which is they can moderate as they see fit. They can allow NSFW content to exist in a non-NSFW subreddit. So as an advertiser, it could very well be that you're going to end up with your tied ad next to unsolicited dick pics.
Like Richard Nixon.
Yes, Richard Branson. Yes, you've got it exactly. And so it's, there are also a number of subreddits that are taken to posting different confections, like ding dongs. And so
perfect
Twinkies. So and there are others like myself who are, again, the time they're spending on Reddit right now, they're just deleting any post that enters my subreddits because if I can't have people posting dicks, I will be one.
So I guess one last thing before we move on to some other topics. What what about the possibility that the moves being made by the moderators, the 8,000 plus moderators in the Reddit community of the millions of Reddit users, whether those who, the typical logged in ones or all the people who would just browse Reddit while not logged in and who have since been denied access, what danger do you fear there might be in with these extreme actions by the moderators, potentially alienating just your garden variety Reddit user? Like, how much actual support is there for these sorts of tactics, given the user experience is being so disrupted? Like, if people are posting to a subreddit and then their post disappears because they're being moderated into oblivion, like, might that not leave a bad taste in people's mouth?
Yeah, probably. And maybe they'll go somewhere else to another website that doesn't have such, I don't know, maliciously compliant moderators, or perhaps terrible APIs. One of those things can change really quickly. Actually, both those things can change really quickly. So, it's funny. I haven't actually been part of a staring contest in a very long time, and it appears that my eyes are wedged wide open. It seems like a lot of us are. So, to Reddit, bring it on. I got nothing better to do.
All right. Well, we'll see how this staring contest unfolds and who will blink first. In other follow-up, we've been talking for months and months, seems like years now, about AI, and then in the last 7 months or so, more specific, or actually in the last year or so, more about generative AI, and then the last 7 months or so about ChatGPT. Well, the company behind ChatGPT, OpenAI, is now being sued by Sarah Silverman. Tasia, what can you tell us about this story? And what is Sarah Silverman up to? What does she expect to get out of OpenAI, and why is she suing them?
Well, Sarah Silverman and some other authors are suing OpenAI and Meta, as a matter of fact, to add to this little tidbit, because they're alleging that OpenAI scraped content from their books in order to train their algorithm. So it's very interesting to see where this is going to go. So, like under traditional copyright laws, like your creative work of art, so like her book as an example, would be protected work. So that's kind of the whole basis of her suit, as well as the other novelist suit, is that you've taken it without our consent and you've used it to train this model and basically pay up. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I want to know really exactly like how, they're going to be able to actually prove it. Like it just seems like we're at the precipice, you guys. You know how we've talked about what's going to happen with music and like the generative AI, like voices, when we're hearing all these things on Instagram and whatever of people singing in the voice of so-and-so. And it's like, this is like new territory. So I'm really curious to see what happens with this, because this is kind of like the first real mainstream big kerfuffle lawsuit we've seen where a bunch of people have said, no, that's my work. Like besides like music companies saying, oh, take down this because it sounds like The Weeknd. Like besides that, there was no lawsuit with it. It was just like take down the content. This is a game changer now. And I don't want to get dramatic, but this could kind of like set a precedent now. Because we've been talking how long about like the laws just aren't there. So I'm really curious to see what happens with this and what you guys think. Like, obviously there's a basis for it because multiple people are suing, but like, is there an actual case? Like, how do we actually prove that that's what the model was trained on? And if it's certain excerpts that were available online, well, it's scraping online content, so it's just this really gray area.
From my understanding, and like to your point, the digital paper trail is something that might be a little tricky to prove. But in the case of Sarah Silverman's book and some of the others, the books themselves aren't officially available online, but there are websites such as Sci-Hub and BiblioTick. Some of these sites have unauthorized versions of their works have been uploaded. So think back in the day with Napster. People are uploading other people's music, even though they didn't necessarily have a right to do so, and so on. So if some of these sites are publicly available and they're being scraped by these large language models, they're going to end up in the machine, right? But on the other hand, if they're simply scraping like reviews of these books, one of the proofs for this kind of case is that, well, how is it that you can go and ask for a summary or a synopsis of this book in a reasonable amount of detail, and these large language models like ChatGPT can just do it? Well, one answer could conceivably be, well, these language models are really good at languages, and if there are dozens, if not hundreds, of reviews of said book out on the web, perhaps they can get a pretty good idea of what that book's about. So I think it's incumbent on the plaintiffs here to actually prove somehow that the actual raw copy of the books are being scraped. And even if they are, we've talked about this in the past, like, within the case of art or music, if you listen to a song or view a piece of art and then you go and create a derivative work, maybe it's your own work that's maybe inspired by them, or maybe you're doing or writing a review or what have you. The difference with these large language models is the scale at which they do that. But how is that at its core different from a person doing, and going and creating a summary? Like, you're reading and ingesting the information. In this case, the language model is reading and ingesting the information. A person can create a summary. The AI can create a summary. Again, the difference is scale and the access by all these other people to this. Should you not go and give a speech discussing the merits of a given piece of art or literature or movie or whatever, because it's based on someone else's work? So that's where it gets a little tricky here. And then obviously, like you said, Tasia, like, proving the digital paper trail. Well, what's your thought on this story, given that things are a little bit muddy? Like, is it self-defeating for creative people to ask that their stuff not be included in this scraping of them? I mean, Google's been scraping forever. Everyone's been scraping. Like, what's the difference here?
Oh man, I don't know. This is a dilly of a pickle. I mean, usually I do believe in protecting the creativity of artists and paying people for the creative works. But this really does get into some fundamentals of, how can you prove it? How is it differentiated than somebody else coming up with it based on other sources rather than just purely lifting, like you say, taking reviews and putting them together and coming up with a synopsis. I mean, it's a difficult one to prove, but I think in general, we do need to work out some of these things. I mean, people are particularly worried about words, but I'm probably more worried about music and voices, to be honest with you. I mean, words are important as well, but this is the one where it becomes really difficult. I mean, the old thing was 3 words next together that were, that would be copyright violation or what have you. But now it gets to be like, is it reasonable to assume that kind of thing, given that, like you say, you can come up with stuff independently? Like, that's not a very strong threshold.
Can we not say bring the noise anymore without getting sued?
Yeah. Well, I was looking, sorry, Tasia, I was looking at doing a shirt for somebody. And I won't bore you with the details, but I was thinking about using the words "it's hammer time" underneath of it. And I'm like, is that copyrighted? I need to look that up.
Yeah, I think it probably is.
Yeah, it is.
But that's the thing, is like, I question too, like, a lawsuit like this or one of this kind is going to be really difficult, even for you know, like to even be argued or that argument understood. Because like even step into the role of like a lawyer or a judge hearing this case or whatever it might be, and you're like, wait, explain this to me again, and then having to go and get like your own independent source of information to explain to you how this all works and how it scrapes and where it's scraping from and who owns the rights to whatever. I mean, it is so muddled. It's just very curious to see what happens. So we all need to like set up an alert and see when we get notifications on this, and then like figure out what's happening. Maybe we all need to get into a little pool and say this is what we think is going to happen, and then see who's right.
Can I just add one more thing? I mean, this is the kind of thing too where people were freaking out when Napster came out, and I remember there was all these methods that you know, music companies and manufacturers tried, like all the DRMs or whatever you want to call it. Like I remember that you couldn't put a CD into a computer disk drive and stuff like this. And then there was lawsuits after about how that overstepped, you know, lawful use. So you've also got to be careful that we don't go too far. And I think we're all just figuring this out. So it can be a tricky thing.
Yeah, and it's not like they're making the entire books available for anyone to just simply download, right? This is just informing the language model. Now, Gray, as an author yourself, when you released a book a number of years ago now, you took a bit of a different approach with regard to the open web and releasing it or uploading it to certain sites. Do you mind just sharing with us what you did there, what your thinking was behind that, and as an author yourself, how you feel about what is happening now with this scraping for the large language models and the merits of the case that Sarah Silverman et al. Might have here?
Yeah, so I took the time to upload samples to Smashwords, and there is obviously like the Amazon system. I can't remember the ability to read it for free if you've got a Prime membership. Now, I don't know if this is a common thing, but I actually uploaded different versions to different sites. And this is actually one of the ways where possibly I might be able to see what got scraped.
A type of watermarking.
Yeah. So there's different language used in different editions of the book. And it would be interesting to see, you know, if it has been used to train any large language models, which ones they picked. Because they are available across a number of different places, or if it, you know, made an amalgamation of each of these. You know, at the time, basically looking at that, it was a bit of a loss leader. Like, he had the first couple of chapters for free. The actual throughput to the book itself wasn't a huge amount. At the time, I'd be interested to go back and take a look. I haven't looked at the sales in quite some time, but you know, as far as this goes, you know, it's a little bit like security by obscurity. I don't think I'm important enough or relevant enough as an author for large language models to really know who I am. You know, it's sort of like, I've asked ChatGPT, don't you know who I am? And it just feeds me my login page again. So that's a bit.
Did you not also upload a copy of said book to BitTorrent at the time, or am I misremembering? Because
no, I did, yeah, and so again that has certain elements to it that if you've read that version. And were to talk to me about certain plot points, I would know where you got it from. And that was mostly just a bit of a curiosity. I mean, from what I remember, the torrent is still active. I'm not serving it anymore. So, you know, it's, I should go take a look at that, actually. I haven't thought about that in a very long time.
I think one of the, I guess, core principles of this entire situation, and we touched on this a little bit when it came to the artists whose works were being ingested by the generative art AIs, and that was the question of, I guess, agency or choice to have one's work included in these things. And if there was some sort of relatively simple tagging system, kind of like a robots.txt file that we can include on our websites to tell different web scrapers that they aren't allowed to scrape the data and or include it in their search results. Maybe something like that, where there are levers that people can turn on or off to opt in or opt out of these. And maybe for simplicity's sake, if it's like opt in by default and you've got to opt out, otherwise the opposite it might be a little counterproductive if we're really trying to educate these large language models. But that notion of having that option might make artists feel a little bit, even if they decide to, ultimately to leave their stuff included, at least it's their choice at that point. And maybe that's the way forward. And if it's not too late, but the horse has left the barn. And I think part of the issue is that I think with some of these large language model producers, be they Google or Facebook or OpenAI or Anthropic, it gets to a point where they're not even sure how it's all working anymore. And being able to actually manually, delete things from its brain, so to speak. It's kind of like at the one of the in the last act of 2001: A Space Odyssey, where Dave has to go in and start removing different memory modules from Hal's core until he's like singing. All he's got left are lullabies to sing and whatnot. So again, another story where just watch this space. You'll see how it evolves. Very quickly, just a little bit more news on the OpenAI / ChatGPT front, specifically ChatGPT Plus. New feature has been turned on called Code Interpreter. Now, it's a little bit of an esoteric name, and it makes you think it might only have to do with code, as in programming code. But there are a number of features that have been enabled by this that basically allow you to do a lot more data analysis, which is kind of cool, such as uploading CSV files or comma-separated value files, data tables for analyzing things like financial results and providing insights into those. I had a link here that had info, but of course, Twitter is so broken now. Let's just see if the embeds aren't working properly and a whole bunch of things. So please stand by. So one of the things that this represents is how they just continue to add functionality. You're paying the same $20 US a month, and they enabled things like priority access, the more sophisticated model, the plugin paradigm to be able to have ChatGPT talk to other tools, and now this whole code interpreter side of things makes the core value proposition even more powerful. Gray, do you have any thoughts on the sort of functionality that is being turned on here, and how it might bode for the future for ChatGPT Plus users specifically?
It's funny. The thing that keeps popping up for me is just, you remember for a while there, everyone was saying, "Oh, you know what? You should get into computer science. You need a computer science degree. You got to be able to code. If you know how to code, you're going to be. This is the future, and like that'll never be irrelevant. You'll never be out of a job." Yeah, about that. It really does seem like, and call me crazy here, call me insane, but it does seem like the ability to talk to machines, to communicate with them, to speak in a language that they understand, is actually going to be more important. That language isn't code anymore. It's going to be English. I'm looking at this and going, wow, combinatorics and optimization, awesome. It's really good at that? Machines. Being able to tell a machine what we want it to do, that's kind of the thing. I feel for folks who slaved away and got a degree that they weren't happy with and have been working in a career that they don't really like, because they want to get to the end result of having a computer do the thing that they want it to. And we're not too far off from being able to say, "Hey, Sir Alexa, go do this thing for me." Yeah.
And that's what I found most interesting about using it to code just some basic JavaScript. I was messing around making a little game and just being able to have a conversation with the chatbot and have it generate the code for it. It's like the whole point is that it's your assistant. You have the ideas and it's helping you make it into a reality. And like you said, sort of making this sort of power available to everyday people, just kind of like how the graphical user interface opened up computing to so many more folks that didn't really grok the whole command line style of computing presented to us by DOS, on PCs.
Are you suggesting that this is the desktop publishing moment for coding?
Could very well be. With the code interpreter specifically, and I misspoke. It wasn't Twitter that was having a problem. It was the LinkedIn embed. So apologies, Elon. But code interpreter allows GPT Plus users to generate charts, maps, data visualizations, and graphics. Analyze music playlists. So you can paste in or upload a playlist of yours, and it'll make a comment on the style of music you like, and maybe make suggestions. Create interactive HTML files, clean up your data sets. You can upload an image and extract color palettes. So this is like a whole nother level of, it's not just chatting back and forth, even though the chatting back and forth, I think, predicts in a way what we've seen in sci-fi for years, where you're having an actual spoken conversation with an AI, like the ship's computer on Star Trek and so many other stories. We're getting there. It's just, and there are tools which will turn on speech recognition or interface speech recognition with something like ChatGPT, and also give you a text to speech, so it speaks back to you. We've played with tools like Call Annie in the past, which are like that. It's just a question of the response times and whatnot, but we are getting so close. And now with these capabilities, now, Tasia, in your line of work with, as a content creator, as a producer for clients as well, when you see some of these capabilities, such as being able to analyze data, images, playlists, and output into various formats, including HTML, what sort of things start going through your mind about the possibilities there?
I just keep in mind that I always use these tools as an aid. So like, it's not taking my job, it's not taking your job, it's just working with us to help us. So like, I get really excited when, like, I'll get these emails from people that are building things that will automatically cut segments from your long form content and make a bunch of short form viral, like TikToks or Reels or whatever. And it's like, and it just uses AI to do it. And it's like, I kind of love the idea of that stuff, because if it's something where you can rely on something to take some of the work off of you and do things in a smarter way and save time, you still have to know how to use the tool. So like, everybody that freaked out when ChatGPT came out and was like, it's going to take our jobs. No, I would argue it created jobs, because there are legit jobs now for people that are prompters. They prompt the language model. So it's like, that's a real job now. And that happened real quick. So I don't know. I always just look at it as, it's exciting to me to get like an extra little tool or to save me time. I'm not,
How about you, Will? With the sort of extra features being added to ChatGPT Plus via code interpreter, is enough to tempt you to spring for the extra $20 US a month to unlock some of those capabilities?
Probably not at the moment. I mean, part of the thing is I just don't use it enough. I only use ChatGPT once in a while, but I'm all for more features. I'm all for people who want to do it, and I'm right with Tasia. Like, I see these AI things just as tools, as aids, as things that I can utilize to do my job better. And it's sort of, to be quite honest, it reminds me a little bit about what kind of my specialty is, which is I'm a bit of a coder, I'm a bit of a designer, and then part of what I end up doing a lot of my career is talking to artists and talking to developers and trying to come to solutions, like speaking both of their languages and knowing what the demands of each is, and then trying to develop a resolution.
I have people skills.
Yeah, but those people skills are only good if you know what can be done, right? So it's like to know the potential, and I think that's part of the prompting, is like to know what your end goal is, but also to be able to use the right words. And as Tristan's been alluding to for a while, the the prompts. It can be a bit of an art, and I've really learned that with Midjourney. I mean, it's like what words generate what things and what reaction, and how do I interpret what Midjourney is trying to do, or what it thinks it's going to do, or what it's good at, and learn from that to get better results.
So some more specific examples on another site that we'll link to in the show notes here have a lot to do with building, writing in JavaScript, building HTML, doing stuff with websites, putting in raw data, having it generate charts for us, doing stuff with Python code, creating music market segments, charting historical prices of Bitcoin and other financial assets. There's a lot of things tend to be programming code and sort of numerical analysis related. Here's one example. Here's 1,000 years of data on England. Identify the exact year the Industrial Revolution started, and then it basically goes to town on that. Creating heat maps of, in one case, of San Francisco crime data and asking it to visualize trends. So a lot of things with data sets, large data sets that would take an ordinary mortal ages to wrap their minds around. Even before Code Interpreter was out, I have a friend with an Amazon store, and he was uploading just raw files, I think, comma delimited data, and it was doing analysis for him of that and looking for ways to help optimize his sales.
The interesting thing to think about here is, because we've said in the past that sometimes doing things that is impressive to the ignorant is the secret to different careers. The idea here that correlation and causation are linked there's always been a bit of a separation there because of the way that data had to be presented. And now if you can take these things that might be correlative but not causal, so something that these two things appear to be linked, and we can show you a graph that looks like they're linked, but they're not. I worry right now that we're getting into a point where ChatGPT might be able to help fuel the idea of fake news and inaccurate data, because here, look, doesn't this look great? You can see these numbers line up, but they're not causal. And that's a little worrisome.
So basically what humans have been doing ever since they invented statistics.
Your words, not mine.
All right. So we will include those links in the show notes if you want to learn more about how to supercharge your ChatGPT Plus subscription. Now, let's move on very quickly. We spent a fair bit of time on this, I think last year, maybe even the year before. But Tasia has a little video, which we'll link to and talk about at the end of the show. But I have to apologize, folks. There are two greetings that that we forgot to greet each other with, for lack of a better phrase. There's one, happy 7-Eleven Day.
Oh yeah.
Who went and got their free Slurpees? I totally forgot.
I didn't, but I couldn't. Yeah.
True. Meet you there. And two, happy Prime Day. Even though it's 2 days, happy Prime Day.
Transform and roll out.
Exactly. So in honor of the first of two Prime Days, why don't they call it Prime Days instead of Prime Day? Like, words have meanings, people. So we have a link for you from the Verge, the best Amazon Prime Day deals that you can get. They've got 124 different things there. There's a lot. There always tends to be a lot of things like earbuds, lots of audio, like smart speakers, Internet of Things devices, lots of TVs. A lot of the Amazon basics type stuff. One of the things that I find a little problematic about ordering on Amazon, like once you start getting into things like, I want to order like a MacBook Air or whatever, they tend to have just only a couple of configurations. And if you're the type of person that likes to up the RAM or up the storage or whatever, you're pretty limited there. And the deals aren't, just aren't there. And Apple obviously doesn't celebrate Prime Day because they're agnostic. But robot vacuums, all sorts of things. So Teja, could you just walk us through some of the highlights in your mind, maybe what people could find in your video, and maybe sort of the sorts of things that we might want to avoid on Prime Day as well? Where generally the best deals to be found?
Well, first tip is now is when you can sign up for a free 30-day trial of Amazon Prime if you're not a Prime member, because Prime Day is only for Prime members, and then get the Prime Day deals and then cancel after the 30 days.
Or
but
cancel as soon as you sign up and you'll still get the 30 days. That's the trick.
There you go.
Even though
Yeah.
they're dark patterns, as mentioned in a recent lawsuit, make
Yes.
it really confusing and difficult. It's actually not that hard,
No,
but you
it's
just
not.
got to stick with it, and you get the benefits until the end of the thing. Apple's the same way with a lot of their stuff too. That's a little life hack. Cancel right away after signing up.
Yes.
Otherwise,
good point on that. Yes.
otherwise Tristan's going to end up with a Paramount Plus subscription in a few days. That he's
Wah,
maybe
wah.
if he doesn't cancel in time. It hasn't happened yet. We'll see. Someone's got to binge all the Mission Impossible movies in the next 5 days.
Okay,
Go
so
on,
like
Tasia. Sorry.
quick electronic categories, your
Yeah.
headphone categories,
Mhm.
things like your AirPods and AirPods Pro. The latest generations are always on sale. Things like Bose and Beats headphones, always, I swear to you, on sale. I'm pretty sure some of them today were up to like 50% off. So,
Oh my God.
yeah, I know. Run, don't walk. But there's JBLs, like basically anything. There's if we go into like the fitness category, there's like fitness trackers. Pretty much any and all Fitbits will be on sale. There's like some Apple watches and all that kind of stuff. We get into things like smart home. Obviously, all Amazon devices are on sale. Actually, before Prime Day, the Echo Dot, I think we're on the 5th generation now. I don't know.
Mhm.
It was like discounted more than 50%. It was like the cheapest it had ever been. I do not know if it's still that same price now, but so things like that. Your robot vacuums, as you said, TVs. What I will say about TVs is, because you asked like what to buy and what not to buy, it really depends on the brand and the configurations and all that jazz, because today is not the only day for like a big ticket like that, especially in the States. We have Black Friday, which I would argue arguably slightly better for like a big ticket like that in terms of a TV. So just kind of, make sure you're tracking, which I also have a video on price tracking and the different tools I use to track prices over time. So you actually know if the deal is a deal, people.
Prime Day
And-
is a lie.
Well, and the other thing, because sometimes what they do is they up a price and then they make it seem like it's a super big discount for Prime Day. So that's why if you're using price trackers, it's really helpful because you can actually say, well, that's not actually a deal. But what I will say too, you touched on a little bit about with like MacBook configurations and stuff, certain things like that and certain phones, just be very careful if you're buying through Amazon. So I know there's like certain Google phones that, you can pretty much get a good deal, but a lot of things when you start getting into like Apple models are refurbed ones or things that maybe don't have like, as great of reviews, and you don't know if you're going to get the device, like, is it actually been wiped properly? Is it, like there's a lot of, if you go down a rabbit hole there on Amazon, there's a lot of questionable, about getting a refurb device on Amazon. So I just say, be careful with what you're, looking at and make sure it's actually a good deal.
Speaking of reviews, Gray's got a hot tip for folks who may use reading online reviews as part of their research and deciding whether or not to buy a specific item.
Yeah, so take a look. This Fakespot.com has a plugin for Safari, for Brave, for Chrome, for Edge.
Probably, if it works for Chrome, it'll probably work for Edge. Yeah.
Yeah. And so basically what it does is it will take a look at the reviews and it will use AI to take a look at the language to see, is it most likely that these are real reviews or fake reviews? The verified buyer status used to be a thing that was something that we could count on. I've been approached by companies to purchase the item and then have been sent the money back in exchange for a favorable review.
Ooh, shady.
Yeah. It was interesting. I did it the once for a pet bowl just to see if it worked, and I wanted the pet bowl. It was actually a good pet bowl, so I felt like I sold my soul for a good thing here. Looking at the pricing though, one thing I did want to say is that the Amazon smart speakers, the Dots, are a great deal in both the US and in Canada. The Echo shows the Canadian prices are trash. They're way more expensive than the American prices. They do not equate. So no bueno, not happy. Yeah, they're nowhere near the discounts. At least I'm not seeing the discounts on my end here. One thing I would say about Fakespot though as well, you'll get a rating from A through I think F. And a lot of the sort of cheap and cheerful products that I'm seeing right now are like in the C and D range. One category I was looking at this year was like micro projectors. If you're looking at a small projector, be aware that you're probably buying garbage. Like as long as you know that you're getting garbage, you're comfortable with it, you're buying garbage. Anything that says that it's got 15,000 ANSI lumens, it doesn't. Right? If you're paying $79 for something, it's probably like if it says 1080p compatible. It means that it's either a 480 or 720 projector. That's the lines of resolution that can take a 1080p input source. We're seeing a lot of 4K projectors.
I'm getting flashbacks to the old HD Ready and all that back in the aughts.
Yes, yeah, we're seeing like weird resolutions like 1920 by 720. Like it's weird stuff. It's the Wild West. A lot of the Android ones come with garbage attached to them as far as software goes. So pick one that doesn't run Android if possible. You'll also see a lot of 5G. That does not mean that it connects to the 5G network. It means that it has 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. So yeah, Prime Day, it's a minefield. It's literally a minefield. Just have at her, have some fun. Know that if you're buying something at $100, might be trash.
Some other recommendations of what to consider and what to avoid include things like, as Tasia mentioned, there you can get good deals on some of the basic Apple products, especially things like the smartwatches and the earbuds, and the base configurations of some of the computers. Things like Amazon Fire TV. A lot of the first party Amazon stuff gets very deeply discounted because that's Amazon's own stuff, and they've got the margins there to play with. Xbox Series S, apparently, you can get a renewed or refurbed model for $199 US. Lodge Dutch oven is a thing that people don't have that in their cooking toolkit.
That kind of Dutch oven.
There you go. Yes.
I was just gonna be like, I love a Dutch oven, and then I was like, wait, I do, but not the one you're thinking.
Pet supplies, and they mentioned some. This article mentions some tools, price trackers, as Tasia mentioned in one of her videos, like Camel that Gray has mentioned before as well. This article also recommends maybe avoiding third-party sellers. You got to be careful with those, especially in Prime Day. The third-party sellers, their deals aren't going to be necessarily quite as great. Gaming systems, kind of like what Tasia was saying about TVs, the deals on video game systems probably not as hot. And then if you're going to get Prime just to get the deals, do the free trial and cancel it right away. And then of course, we don't want to be using events like this just to buy more stuff.
Consume.
Right, and that's the whole thing. I shudder at some of the future e-waste that is being purchased simply because it's cheap. But
what I say to people is make your list throughout the year, or like if this Prime Day gets you thinking of, oh man, I need this one thing or whatever, make your list of things you need. And then when like a Prime Day comes up or a Black Friday in the States or something where like basically your 2 days of the year where you're going to get like, you can see steep discounts, then you're buying something where you're like, I have needed this item, especially if you make the list like in advance and then 6 months later, you're like, yeah, still need the item, then it's like, you're not contributing to all this just buy junk,
So if you can postpone the purchase of your Groansy baby nasal aspirator, and you can wait till Prime Day, 32% off.
Does that come with the baby or no?
It's only one way to find out. Yeah, this isn't Wayfair. Go ahead. You got.
Damn. That's deep cut.
Cold.
I was going to say there's one last category I would recommend checking out if you like camping, or if you are a prepper or a prepper who likes camping. The solar generators are there's usually a couple that are on sale that are good brands. Anker in the States has their 521 on sale, which is in that list on The Verge. The other one that I was going to recommend here, let me see if I can grab the link for it. I'll throw that in here. This is the BLUETTI, and they make good stuff. And so this is here in Canada. It's got a LiFePO4 battery. It'll charge 0 to 80% in 30 minutes. And it's a great little device. It'll charge your laptop. I think it's like, it'll say here, 9 or 10 times, something like that. But yeah, it's a great little device. It actually has app control with Bluetooth, so you can see how power consumption is going. It connects directly up to a solar panel. I've got a knockoff from a couple of years ago that doesn't have the LiFePO, so it takes about 6 hours to charge, but it's got 300 watt hours of power, which is great. I used it at Base Coast this weekend and didn't even crack into the available power. Having 2 of these things, having a backup is great. And so if you do like camping, this will run your refrigerator if you have to. It'll run a heater if you have to. Max draw of, I think it's something like 1200 watts. It can run 600 watts reliably. So yeah, there you go.
And I've seen some of these BLUETTI devices featured by a couple different YouTubers, including the 8-bit guy, and they seem to be pretty well regarded. My question is, how many extra kilometers of range can I get on my EV with one of these?
You joke, but
enough to get you maybe to the next stop.
I would love to find out.
We just have to do the math on the capacity.
No, let's fire test this.
Great. One last little bit, lest we forget, that we always make a point of mentioning this, that there is more to life than Amazon as well. But because Amazon has done a masterful job of just dominating the tech news cycle over the last couple of days, and if you look at all the tech news sites right now, it's all Prime Day, Prime Day, Prime Day. It's brilliant. But the other retailers, online and otherwise, are not taking this lying down. And you have retailers such as Walmart, Target, Best Buy, Nomad, Macy's, Overstock.com, Home Depot, Petco, Stack Social, B&H Photo Video, great New York City shop that I've shopped at before, bookshop.org if you want to support independent online booksellers, and more. So we will include a link in our show notes for all sorts of great non-Amazon deals as well. So remember, we never want to be in a world where there's only one retailer left. So shop around, look for the best deals. There's often great deals to be had on Amazon, but don't just assume, there could be even better deal elsewhere. And we'll remind you again come Christmas time, as we always do. All right. I got to check out that BLUETTI. Tasia, you ready for the next biggie? The next
Ready.
biggie? So Will and I teased this when it was just the two of us last week. And it's like, ooh, there's the notification that it came up that get on the waiting list now for Threads by Instagram. And we've had the better part of a week, all 4 of us, to play around with this. Tasia, why don't you lead us in? What is Threads by Instagram?
Well, Threads is basically a text. Bing, bing. Threads is a text-based app. You have to be an Instagram user to have a Threads account. And everybody is claiming it is like the next Twitter. I don't think it is, and we'll get to that in a minute. But it's very interesting. It surpassed, what are we, over 100 million people already? It's been faster growth.
Yeah.
Faster growth than like ChatGPT, all this kind of stuff.
With an asterisk, because
Yes.
ChatGPT was starting from scratch, and
it wasn't just open.
Yeah.
Like Threads just kind of opened the floodgates, which
2
Clubhouse
billion
didn't
Instagram
do.
users, right? So we got 5% conversion, which is pretty impressive. But that was one of the great things they did. They made it very easy to just like, there's your Instagram account. Now you've got a Threads account.
Yeah, so it is really easy. And what they're also doing now is basically, and not a lot of people are talking about this, but because it is tied to your Instagram account, if you go to someone's Instagram profile, you can actually see there's a temporary badge right now underneath their name on the Instagram profile that says the user number that they are on Threads. So then if you tap that, that'll bring you over to Threads, where then you could sign up to, if that's how you are going to get to the app type thing. But it creates a really good way of like creating like a FOMO, and creating like I got to get on this first. And like, there's a sense of like, oh, you were what number were you? Oh, I was this number. Oh, you're only this number. Oh, it's like, what's your Threads number? And it's like this wild marketing trip. So anyway, that's kind of like a pretty interesting aside, but it's really interesting right now because it's early days. It's only the first week, and they've even said they're going to work on some stuff. So when everybody's saying off the gate, it's a Twitter competitor, it's going to replace Twitter, there's a lot of reasons why it's not. One of them being, especially in the short term, is that you really can't do much right now on Threads besides talk. It's basically like you're DMing everybody that you knew from Instagram. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty much how it's kind of carried over. You can link out. You can upload something from your camera roll. So there's no like built-in GIFs, but I found out the workaround, which is just download the GIF to your camera roll, and then you can upload the GIF on Threads. So if you have photos, videos, GIFs from your camera roll, you can add that. There's no app mentions right now. There's no hashtags right now. There's no search right now. I mean, it is bare bones, a text app. So, it was really fun in the first days to play around, and that's what everybody was talking about. And of course, it was like the buzz. Tell me if I've seen a ton more engagement, maybe 0.5% more than me tweeting into nothing. It's pretty much the same on Threads for me. Like there's just, because the algorithm, by the way, is based on the Instagram algorithm. So right now there's no like homepage. There's no like who you're following. There's no,
it's all mixed together. Yeah.
It's all mixed, and you can't sort it by time. So latest to earliest posts, you can't right now. They're working on that apparently, but like, so it's just kind of algorithm based. So the small people still get lost in the shuffle, basically, is what I'm finding. And you see a lot more of like the big players. And it's fun. Like so far it seems like a positive place and we're all having a good time, but it is not a Twitter competitor in my mind at all. And if they don't get their ship right real friggin' quick with this algorithm and other functionalities, people are going to, like, I already haven't been on it that much in the first 2 days. I was like, oh my God. And there were so many notifications. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I should check Threads. Like it's not top of mind. And it hasn't replaced Twitter for me in that I'm still mostly getting news, like say from my Google app or from Twitter or things like that, where I can curate more of like that following and can curate the content that I'm getting. And I still feel like it's a totally different user base, because a lot of people that I follow on Twitter, like I either don't follow on Instagram or aren't posting the same type of content on Instagram. So it feels different. And I say that now, fully knowing that in a couple weeks, they're going to have ads all the same. Like, enjoy it now while you can. No ads, what a time to be alive. But it's just like, enjoy it now, because it's going to be people doing the same thing they're doing on Twitter, linking out to whatever, and buy this and buy that. And here's my very right or left wing view on this thing. And so it's just a matter of time, but it's cool, question mark.
The interesting thing about the algorithm, from what I understand, is that Meta has been leaning, or Instagram has been leaning pretty heavily on the algorithm to, at least in the early days, to keep it a fun place. They're really throttling political type stuff, for example, and trying to maintain the nature of Instagram. Like imagine if Twitter was just a bit more pleasant like Instagram, but then to your point, because it's so easy to just like port over your profile and follow everyone who you were following before, and it's the influencers get more influential in a sense, right? It's like the big, so it's now, again, there's no better time than the present to try and build a following, like follow as many people as you can, be really active, juice the algorithm, because everyone's feeds are algorithmic right now. So if you can catch attention, you're more likely to have one of your threads go quote unquote viral, and you could build a following if that's the kind of clout you're chasing. So there's very few opportunities when there is like a brand new platform to make a splash on and get noticed. So it's exciting in that way. And I've talked to some people who are like, they're just having a gay old time on there. People are cross posting to Twitter and Facebook and other places. Oh man, you got to check this out. This is so great. Now, Will, you're on Threads. What is your handle, and what are your first impressions?
Oh, geez, I don't remember. It's my Molotov account. I think it's probably at Crossfader Ninja.
It's CrossFit Ninja. Yeah, you followed me.
Yeah, I followed all y'all. Yeah, it's I think the thing for me is I mean, unlike maybe Tasia or the rest of you, like I'm not a big Twitter guy. I am an Instagram guy. I like Instagram a lot, and part of the reason is that it's not a tire fire yet. So I mean, is it going to be a tire fire? Maybe. Maybe I have some vain hope that it'll be slightly better than Twitter, just because Instagram hasn't turned completely sideways yet. But yeah, I mean, I think the nature of the platform leads more. And Tristan, you and I have talked about what is it about Instagram that I like, and I've tried to piece it together
Cat
with
videos?
you. Cat videos, yes. But it's one of it is it's not as much conversational, right? It's not as much expressing your views. It's more about sharing images and sharing funny memes and stuff like that. So it lends itself less to controversial subjects, I think. Now, it doesn't mean that stuff doesn't creep in. Of course it does. But that inherently might not work on, as Asia said, a sort of text-based platform like a Twitter, like this now Threads. So we'll see where it goes. I mean, my 2 posts were basically just images with like one sentence. So yeah, I'm kind of embarrassed. I was trying to make hashtags work and it didn't really work. So
they might get turned on eventually, so there's no harm in that.
Yeah. So I mean, I've only posted 2 things. I might post a couple more things tonight. I know a couple people that are just going to town.
Yep.
Going to town. And like they're just like, I am going to post like nonstop. One person I have followed on Instagram, he's a local DJ. I mean, he's just posting like 60 things a day. It's like, is this going to work for you, or are you just diluting stuff? Like, I don't know. I mean, I basically have gotten 0 traction off of the 2 things I've posted. But again, I've just been playing with it, and it is very bare bones right now. But you know what? It's sort of like climbing up onto a ledge and being like, oh, is this steady? Oh, it's good so far. Well, let's just work on this. Let's go from here. What else can we do? So it's nice that it's so far it's not full of hate and crazy billionaires that I've seen. And I think we got to also remember, and I know Tasia knows this, of course, but I think you mentioned it, is that this is early days. Like, they got a lot of time to build up features and to build up stuff. So so far so good. But to quote one of my favorite movies, Show Me the Money, I mean, it's got to get better, not right away, but it's definitely got to build on what it's doing. Like, hashtags don't work, a bunch of things don't work.
There's no DMs. Yeah,
there's no DMs. There's the notifications are somewhat sketchy. I have no idea why I'm getting notified about what stuff. So and then stuff that I think I should get notified about, I'm not getting notified about. So it's like, maybe I haven't figured out, maybe I'm not smart enough to figure out what Threads is doing, but also I just think Threads is dumb sometimes. So we'll see where it goes.
Well, the what you mentioned about the what are the odds it's actually going to break out? And one of the choices that Meta made, or Instagram made, when launching Threads, is they actually considered for a moment having it as a tab in the Instagram app or site. And I'm pretty sure it would not have had the impact that it has had so far if they had merely made it a feature of Instagram, because Instagram is kind of a different mode right? It's more
Yeah.
the, and a different paradigm. So, and then some people forget there was another Facebook or Meta had another product called Threads a few years ago, and they just closed it in 2019. And it was basically a type of messaging app to be used in the Meta properties. So they still had the trademark for that, so they could just basically redeploy it like other companies sometimes do. Like Apple, for example, Apple Vision was an Apple monitor back in the 90s, and so now they've got Apple Vision Pro. So Meta is just recycling the Threads name after only 3 years, and they making it its own thing. There's still no web app. You can't post anything via the web. And to be fair, it took a while before you could do anything like that for Instagram either. It's really the minimum viable product. They actually launched it a week earlier than they were planning to, because Twitter was having some issues, as you and I discussed last week. With the throttling and whatnot that was happening, because they thought that there was all sorts of bots scraping Twitter and whatnot, and the users were freaking out because they couldn't even read more than 300 tweets if they didn't have Twitter Blue, and it was getting nuts. So the Instagram team's like, let's go now, and it's a little rough around the edges. Gray, what are your initial thoughts so far? You haven't been super duper active, but you went and claimed your username at 3PO on Threads. What a couple of the other links that Tasia shared was the regarding the impact it might be having on Twitter. I think there was about a 5% drop in Twitter traffic, and of course Twitter responding with the Elon accusing Meta of stealing trade secrets and stuff like that. Do you what is your whole take on the potential success of Threads?
So a couple of things. One, the way Elon's been acting lately, I've got a little bit of schadenfreude right now. It's like, stuff it, E. It's just been so, and and I hate the fact that I'm siding with Zuckerberg. God,
it finally happened. Hell froze over.
Just what the hell? Interestingly enough,
enemy of my enemy is my friend Grasshopper.
I know. My cabbages. So like looking at this right now, I think that they actually have the opportunity here. Meta, Facebook, Instagram, Threads. They have the opportunity here to actually cut off two heads of the Hydra in one go. And I see the future. Do you want to hear what the future is? The future is this. The advertising dollars that are currently being spent on Twitter, where people are begrudgingly spending those dollars, will end up in Meta's pockets, because Elon is a dick and no one can stand him. Despite the fact that there's another CEO in there, he's done the damage. I don't want to be on Twitter anymore. The only other person to do that was Donald Trump. So great. Threads is going to come in, and they're going to have their hashtags, they're going to have their ads, they're going to have all of their media tools, but they're going to do the thing that we were asking Twitter to do a couple of weeks ago, which is they are going to supplant Reddit. This is where this is going to happen. We're going to see category threads, weaves, looms, whatever the hell it is. But we're going to see Threads take the place of Reddit and Twitter at the same time. This is some Westeros level stuff.
Gray Williams going on the record, July 11th, 8:07 p.m.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
It's it's unfortunately Zuck looks to be sitting upon the Iron Throne, and hopefully he doesn't get poked too hard.
Do you know the thing that? Sorry, now that you brought up the Iron Throne, the thing that my brother said to me about Game of Thrones was that everybody dies, but the problem is the people you don't like, just before they die, you begin to like them. And maybe this is Zuckerberg's thing, is that we're just starting to like them, and then it's not going to fall through.
Yeah, you might have hit it on the head there, Will.
One last.
Tell Elon it was me.
Well, one last notion here, and Tej, I'll let you wrap up this bit on Threads, is given that the jury's really still out on whether Threads is going to succeed or not, given that it's been 6 days, and we saw what happened with Clubhouse. I mean, Clubhouse was partly the inspiration for us even starting Momentous Live, if you all recall, over 2 years ago, and that kind of fizzled out. It was basically it got added. Twitter cloned it, made it a feature with the Twitter Spaces, I think it was called. Yeah. And it was, LinkedIn even had, I think, their own clone. So it was pretty easy to clone. And in this case, Threads is basically cloning Twitter, hence, the threatened lawsuit, which
you fire people, they're going to go work somewhere.
But apparently those people weren't even working on it. So it's like, there's really no basis to that suit. But Tasia, with the fragment, again, the increased diversity of these social platforms, the blowing up of certain platforms due to mismanagement or conflict with the user base or otherwise, like this one Verge article is basically saying, where are we all supposed to go now? Twitter was a thing, in its purest form was in the early, the late aughts, early 2010s. We even had things like Foursquare, which then evolved into split in two, and then there was Swarm, but that kind of lost a lot of steam. Tumblr is a shell of its former self. I mean, TikTok is still ascendant and quite dominant. Facebook is like for boomers and boomer wannabes. Instagram is, it's the happy place where, you got cat videos and people shilling makeup products.
Who wrote this article for The Verge? Because this person needs to get a life. Honestly.
They need to go outside.
Right. With respect. Yes. I was just going to say, go play outside. I don't friggin' know. Get a life.
Where are we supposed to go?
Where do we go?
I don't owe you anything, you moody zennial.
Yes. I don't know. Have a real friggin' social interaction with a effing human being. Like, I don't care where you go.
Learn art.
Like, who is this person?
But hashtag touch grass.
Have fun. Where do I go? I don't care.
Okay.
They owe me something. My thousands of hours.
One thing I forgot to mention was Mastodon, which we talked about a fair bit in the fall, and a lot of tech nerds ended up leaving in a huff and going there. There's Blue Sky is struggling. T2 is struggling. Barely anyone knows about Hive. Spill is apparently for Black Twitter refugees. There's Post for journalists and basically no one else. Like, the fragmentation of the social web is in full effect, and we're losing. One of the lamentations of this article is like there's no one place anymore. Like in the early social web, it seemed like anyone who was on the social web was on MySpace, and then Facebook came along, blew that up, and then everyone was on Facebook. But then video wise, pretty much everyone is on YouTube. So there is still that, but YouTube doesn't have much in the way of the other things that we tend to crave, like fighting with strangers on the internet. I guess there's a comment section, but the news sharing, the photo sharing, and whatnot. So YouTube isn't a Swiss Army knife. Elon wants to make X.com the super app, if that ever happens, to rival WeChat in China. But don't you miss the days when everyone was in one place? Don't you miss the days of only three TV channels and everyone was watching this the series finale of MASH?
A simpler time. Do you know my solution for that is just delete your friggin' social apps then and just live in real existence in real life if you care so much and you want a simpler time. Like,
but everyone else is on the social, like they're looking for that one social.
This is exactly what they want. This David Pierce, all these apps are meant for you, David Pierce, writer of this Verge article, because you, sir, have FOMO and you need to get your shit figured out because this is ridiculous. Nobody cares if you're on it or not. I guarantee you. You guys ever think of like, I equate it to sometimes like do you remember when Instagram was changing up their algorithm and basically I couldn't use it on my iPhone. I had to only use it like on my Google Pixel. It was really bizarre. And like they changed up how you were fed like videos and content. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And they did it like a sneaky trial for only certain users, but weirdly it was only on iOS and not on my Android device. Anyway, it's like at first I thought much like David would feel. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do now? But I'm on Instagram all the time. And then after 24 hours, I was like, oh, am I really actually missing anything at all? And like, you know, when social media influencers go online and then they go, hey guys, sorry, I was taking a little bit of a break. And I'm like, I didn't even know you were gone. Like, I don't need you to be like, I was taking a break from like I don't care.
You know, I haven't heard from him in a while. The influencer I love.
Right.
Deja, be honest. Be honest. What if it's Taylor Swift?
Well, I know exactly what she's doing at all times. So we're best friends.
You slipped an AirTag in her.
We're best friends.
Okay.
Do you follow her, like at Taylor Jet on Threads?
There we go. Yeah. So now I okay. This is the old in me, but again, I kind of get what David Pierce is saying here, even from the practical standpoint of how annoying it is when you're trying to get a message out to maybe, a whole bunch of people at once. And it was always bad enough when you had a couple of holdouts that were never on Facebook. But now when you've got like, not everyone's on LinkedIn, not everyone's on Facebook. It's like not everyone's, like, even fewer people are on Twitter. Like there's a bunch of people, but it's like there's no one place. I got to go freaking use evite.com to organize an event. Like it's the 90s. Like what is happening?
I understand. Evite. Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name.
Right.
And they're always glad you can.
Maybe this was written by David Hyde Pierce, cousin of Fraser Crane.
But this is my problem with a lot of media these days is it's split over too many things, right? Like this is not just social media. Like how about Netflix? And if you're a soccer fan, there's like TSN and Sportsnet and ESPN and DAZN.
Where are the monopolies?
Wait. But we were just talking about this. We were just talking about the fact that we don't want to have one store to go to. Fragmentation is good.
Bring back the monopolies.
Yeah, monopoly.
Everything is must-see TV, only on NBC. Be there.
How quickly you all changed your
all restaurants are now Taco Bell.
That's right. Okay. We've gone way longer. We still have a couple things we need to get to.
We gotta go.
I gotta whiz. Can we hurry up?
Okay, well, we're gonna
whiz bad.
I can't go on.
Okay. Will you can't go. We're gonna have to skip the DJ story until next week. I'm sorry, because we can save it. We can save it.
No,
because
it's relevant now.
Is it? Do our mums care? Like, take care probably more about Disney. Okay, let's keep this one tight then. We'll get a take from you and a take from Gray, and we're gonna move on to Disney because I think that one's got a bit more curbside appeal, frankly.
Okay, so the big thing today was it was on nobody's radar. I've watched a bunch of stuff on that, talked to a bunch of friends. So basically Pioneer DJ, which is different than the Pioneer Corporation, it was sold off to AlphaTheta, and they bought Serato, which is the leading DVS software, which is basically how you DJ with your laptop. Some people think that it has ruined DJing because you're no longer matching vinyl. Now you've got to look at a screen. But it has also revolutionized things because you don't have to carry around a big crate of records anymore. You only need to carry around your laptop. Basically, Pioneer has bought this software and people are freaking out. Some people are being calm about it on social media, but then are freaking out behind the scenes, partly because there doesn't really seem to be a plus for the user here. There's rumors about all sorts of things.
Oh, they're freaking out in a bad way.
Just wait and see. Sorry?
They're freaking out in a bad way, not in a good way.
Not in a good way, in a bad way. So one thing that's rumored is that In Music was one of the other big brands, monopolies that own a bunch of brands like MPC and Newmark and Rain and a bunch of other music brands or music instrument brands. They feel they're going to be left out in the cold, most likely, or they're going to choose not to give money to a competitor and try to do their own thing. So again, talking about fragmentation, this is fragmentation. They're thinking it might mean the death of Rain, which is a big name in the DJ arena. So there's all sorts of rumors. I think let's wait and see how it turns out here. And we're just going to have to see what happens. There's a big fear that things are going to be subscription based. They're going to turn it off and we're going to have to subscribe. Again, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So let's see. I do a lot of work on both Serato and Serato Studio. They're two of my big programs that I use. So I am a little concerned, but we'll see how it goes. And I think this is day one, so let's just see what happens.
Well, I think we've made it pretty clear that here at Momentous we are pro-monopoly, so let the consolidation continue. Gray, you had a comment as regards Tractor and more. What's your take on this acquisition?
So Tractor is like Apple, right? They make the hardware, they make the software. These things go together, they go together seamlessly, and it's a beautiful little system that is kind of a closed ecosystem that people dislike because it can be more expensive, but like, just this beautiful seamless user interface. I've got a couple other products. Their software is great. Their hardware is great. Love it. I use Serato as well. You can use Serato with your Tractor hardware. Think of it this way. It's kind of a bit of an analogy. Pioneer is like Microsoft, and the Pioneer DJ system is like Windows. They bought Serato to create the Surface line, where they have the hardware and the software in harmony. You might notice that Windows still runs on a bunch of other shit, and it's not hampered in those spaces. I think this is actually a phenomenal thing for people because the vertical integration that we've got on Tractor, you're now going to have that vertical integration on the Pioneer side, where they can start tying the software and the hardware in together in a more unified way. What this does do is it opens up the opportunity for a number of other pieces of DJ software like DJ, DJY, Mix Pro, and a bunch of others to kind of step in and go, okay, so for all you other hardware manufacturers, if you're worried about Serato, work with us. Yeah. This could be the moment where DJ software does kind of explode outwards. Serato was the first to integrate in a meaningful way the ability to separate stems in live performance. You know, load a track, hit stems, and have it come out to your vocal track, your lead track, your guitar track, your bass track, and it does it really well. Tractor doesn't do that yet.
I think one of the fears too. Sorry, great. One of the fears, at least I guess in my little community, which is more the hip hop scratch DJs, is that this is going to lead to already the movement away from separate mixers rather than controller based things, and that's the fear about Rain going away. Is it's kind of a beloved brand and it's known for its quality, even though it's sort of gotten a little worse since it joined in music. But that's one of the fears, is that it's going to be, especially if Rain isn't involved in this little party, that it might be the odd person out. So
and I think this is where there's a huge gap now for new software to come along and take what they've done over at Serato, what they've done over at Tractor, and look to that audience, because that audience isn't going to shrink. Y'all aren't going away. And if anything, this is actually going to bring more people in. So you know me, I'm the eternal optimist. It may not be that Serato is the software that you use going forward. It may be something else, but I feel like I don't know. I've got a good feeling about this. This is going to drive more people to do what we do. I'm stoked for it. Fingers crossed.
Tasia, your single word take on this story, or perhaps a punctuation?
Cool.
All right. Glad we got that story in there. It's interesting. Again, bring on the monopolies. So, in other, speaking of monopolies, in this case, cultural, Disney. Will had this other article that he was sharing with us. Disney's harsh new reality, costly film flops, creative struggles, and a shrinking global box office. Will, can you sum up this article from Variety magazine and what's going on with what is this malaise at Disney that they're talking about?
Well, I mean, I think this is somewhat a problem overall in the overall sort of movie streaming industry, but I think Disney's had a particular problem because they kind of a bit sold themselves down the river during the pandemic, you know, like releasing Encanto, like 5 days after it came out in theaters and things like this. So, one of the feelings is people are just waiting for it to come on streaming services. But also, people maybe they want something different. Maybe they're over going to the theater. They got, their revenge movie out, and they went to the theaters a bunch of time and then went, hey, you know what? I like sitting on my ass and drinking cheap beer while I'm watching a movie. I don't think I'll go to the cinema. So I think, there's a series of issues here. And certainly part of it might be the qualities of the movies that are coming out, or people are sick of sequels or sick of, things they don't know about. Like Elemental fell flat. I mean, the remake of Little Mermaid, the quote unquote live action version. I say that partly because there's still animation involved, even though it's just realistic animation. But yeah, I mean, I think that's also maybe a genre that was ripe for things falling apart, people getting sick of bad remakes of classic movies. So
burnt out on Marvel as well. And
people, as much as I think I love Marvel and you guys love Marvel as well, there's sort of been a little bit of a lack of direction after the Infinity Saga, and maybe people are just getting a little sick of stuff. I think the Ant-Man one, it wasn't its strength. They tried to do something a little bit different with Ant-Man. I liked it, but it certainly wasn't the like the first two Ant-Man movies that were much more sort of street level, and he had a series of wacky friends. This was like a sort of a very serious weirdo adventure in a microverse. So I think that it's hard to really tease all this apart, but I think what's really interesting is that this is a sign that you can't just sit on your laurels and expect that a movie franchise that is getting old, and a series that people may be waning on is going to cash in like it always has. You need to freshen stuff up, and you need to maybe figure out how to really use Disney Plus to your advantage instead of underselling your product.
And new IP, like we were seeing so much recycled IP. Will, you and I talked last week about how some companies are resorting to board games.
So
Mattel,
there's 40 board games in the work from Mattel, like Hungry Hippos and Monopoly and Operation. They're writing scripts on all these things. Uno, like how are you writing a script on Uno?
Well, as the lead in to said Mattelverse, is that what we're going to call it? The Barbie movie, just directed by Greta Gerwig, coming soon. People have noticed that it's actually being released on the same day as the newest Christopher Nolan movie, Oppenheimer. And some people are proposing that this makes for the perfect date night, a double feature at the theaters. You could go and see Barbie for some fun, Oppenheimer for some serious atomic, angst, so to speak. What more could you look for in a summertime, cinematic date night? Tasia, what do you think? Is Barbenheimer a thing that's going to happen in your household? 5 hours of movies.
Barbie, though.
You'll go see Barbie?
Yep.
What about Oppenheimer? You can do it.
You guys know it takes a lot to get me to go to the movies.
But you're already there seeing Barbie. Why not see Cillian Murphy as well in Oppenheimer? Look at them. Look at him there. Next
morose, absolutely morose. And now
he could be the new Ken.
Is it the order in which you see them is how you refer to it? Like, do you have Oppenheimer or Barbenheimer?
Your choice.
Okay, I think I'd probably go see Barbie first.
You could even dress up
because or maybe you go see Oppenheimer and then go see Barbie as a palate cleanser. I'd like to do both in one evening.
Margot Robbie and Cillian Murphy in one night. What more could you ask for?
It's like a Suicide Squad movie that we haven't seen yet.
Fair. On that note, I just also wanted to leave you with something for if you haven't had a chance to watch yet. We'll include a link in the show notes for everyone. Speaking of Barbie, there was a new song, an exclusive song released as part of the promotion for the Barbie movie, and it's called Just Ken. It's a little song sung by Ryan Gosling, and he's just Ken. So
Beautiful.
Tasia, have you had a chance to check that out? Yeah.
I have not.
Oh, look at Ryan Gosling there with no shirt, and they've lots of teasing all sorts of little scenes from the movie. I mean, it does look like it's going to be fun, meta fun, so to speak. Being directed by Greta Gerwig, it's going to be interesting for sure. Are you going to see who's going to be there on opening night?
I don't know about opening night, but I'll go.
All right, and then we will line up next year for the Uno movie. I can't wait for the Yahtzee movie personally. Okay, let's move on to our picks of the week, shall we? Tasia, what's your momentous pick this week?
Okay, real quick. I finally got the Anker 3-in-1 charging cube. You guys. It's so good. It's a MagSafe charger. So I'm like very excited to finally upgrade my iPhone in the fall. And yeah, I will say it is like a paperweight. So this was the one you guys will remember last year. This was the one Apple was selling exclusively. Not so this year. Now they're selling a Mophie one, I believe, that folds out. It's in like a little compact thing that folds out, probably because people were like, this is a bit heavy. But I still went with this one because I like the look of this better on my desk, and it doesn't take up a lot of space on my desk because it's a little tiny cube.
And what can you charge on this single tiny cube?
Apple Watch, AirPods, iPhone.
Love it. 3-in-1.
3-in-1.
All right. Will, your momentous pick this week.
Yeah, so I went with some people to see Spider-Verse, and they all hated this movie, but I loved it. I just loved it from beginning to end. I was all in. I'm a big fan of the books. I'm a big fan of the Madam Web storyline from the 90s comic books, which this evokes a little bit. And I loved the visual style. I loved how it switched up the story a little bit. I loved the new characters. It was really, really good. I have to say it's up there with one of the movies of the year for me so far. I'm, an unapologetic Marvel fan, so I was bound to probably like this a little bit, but I really, really enjoyed this. But the people I was with, I mean, they're full of hate, and they're bitter inside. There's something broken with them.
Sounds like a likely story. Now, wouldn't it be fair to say that perhaps your views on this film are biased, given that you didn't have to watch it in 3D while your brain was sinking into your spinal column?
Yes.
Unlike the last movie.
Just to refresh people's if I've told this story before, I think in some form here, but if anyone's forgotten, I went to the first Spider-Verse movie with Tristan not feeling super good, and I saw it in 3D. And if you've seen that movie, it's super trippy. And I actually had a fluid leak in my spine, and I was having like head trauma constantly. Oh, and I went and saw that movie, and I couldn't walk down the stairs, so Tristan had to help me down the stairs afterwards. I'm like, Tristan, I don't think I can make it down the stairs.
So this one is miles better, so to speak.
So to speak, yes.
See what I did there?
Yeah.
Great choice. I concur. Hatefully. Gray, do you have a pick for us this week, Gray? Momentous
Star
pick?
Trek Strange New World Season 2. It's great. It starts out with some really great episodes. One focusing on Ethan Peck as Spock. There's a courtroom drama as the second episode. We get a time traveling episode as the third episode that deals with Khan Noonien Singh. What? And then we've got a phenomenal, feels like it came right out of the 60s episode with just some really cool sci-fi concepts that I dig. And it feels like one of the main complaints with Discovery was that they did not give enough time to the crew outside of Michael Burnham and Saru, and they are focusing on the crew here. It's great. Enough said. Go watch it on Crave.
Agreed. 2 for 2.
Where can you find it? I forget now.
It's on
I watched
Crave.
season 1. Sorry?
It's on Crave. Crave.
Oh, Crave.
Crave.
Or Paramount Plus.
Not
if you
yet.
swing that way.
Is
No,
it?
not even season 2?
No, I don't think so.
No? Oh, wow.
No.
holding back.
Star Trek Prodigy is moving to Paramount Plus on the 28th of
The
July,
one
and then
season
the
of
rest
Star
on
Trek Prodigy, not to twist the knife.
hashtag Save Prodigy. Anyway,
All right, 3 great picks so far. I'm going to keep mine in theme as we wrap this puppy up. In honor of Threads, the app, I am going to choose Threads, the made-for-TV movie from the 1980s, which was all about a nuclear holocaust.
Jesus.
well, we ended up there.
Oh, of course you did.
This was part of the 1-2 punch with The Day After Tomorrow, which was an American drama, I think aired on ABC, which was affecting in its own right. But in September 1984, we got this almost 2-hour-long film about the nuclear Holocaust, and wild. And the ending itself is the kind of thing that you never forget. So if you want to have a bad time, go and check out Threads, the movie, not the social media app.
Where?
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm sure it's somewhere. Search the Apple TV app. It's probably on Pluto TV, or it could be on Tubi. Actually, I think I might have seen it on Tubi. I think the whole thing actually might even be posted on YouTube. I will find a link and I'll include that in the show notes as well. So, you think Threads is a bad time? The app. Just wait till you see the movie.
Oh, no.
All right, projects. Nothing. Will, you got nothing? Gray, you got any projects this week?
Negative.
Negative.
All right. It is on YouTube.
There we go. Let's go straight to Tasia then. You've got not one, but 2 videos for us. What?
I know, I did a lot. So obviously the first one is the Amazon Prime Day deals. You got to go watch it now because it ends tomorrow. So go watch my Prime Day deals video. But that's not all I have.
But wait, there's more?
But wait, there's more. I also made a little video on a new booking schedule feature in Google Calendar, which is available to all Google users. So you no longer need Google Workspace account or Google One account. You can do this for free in your Google Calendar.
That's great. I pay for Fantastical to do that. So I'm going to look for that.
It's really neat.
Is this going to Sherlock Fantastical and
so far you
can those other ones? Yeah.
You can create one type of schedule for free.
Okay.
If you want to create additional schedules, you will upgrade to either a Google One or a Google Workspace. But it's really awesome for like people that just need to create like one type of schedule. It's like finally, and it looks a lot nicer than the one does in Google Workspace. So like I got that sorted out. So those are my projects.
Right.
And so we can find out more about your work at let's say
youtube.com/Tasia Custody.
Or how about TasiaCustody.com if you're
You can go there too.
Feeling
you can just put in Tasia Custody and see what you get back. Just anywhere on the interwebs.
Nice.
You're gonna get something back.
And you can find out more about us at Momentous.tv/links, which features a newly added link to our very own Threads account. Look at this. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Flickr, LinkedIn. We have a podcast, Threads, Twitter, Vimeo, and YouTube.
Nice.
God, guys, we are on it. We need to be a bit more active, but we're working on that. You can find out more about the team at Momentous.tv/team. And look, we might as well bring that up too while we're here. Look at that. Look at that team. Look at that gorgeous team. And
team.
All the individual social accounts for the teams. We'll add the Threads accounts for all y'all as well. And then, of course, the podcast, Momentous.tv/podcast, where you can find the audio version of this amazing show, updated on a regular basis. Usually we try to get it out as soon as possible after this live stream. But, sometimes it takes a couple of days because we got to clean up the audio a little bit. And especially when there's sirens, loud keyboards, whatever might be happening on,
Why are you looking at me?
I'm not looking at anyone.
Cats meowing.
Why
Cats
are you
meow.
looking at me?
My cat too.
There we go. Hashtag not all cats. So that's it, guys. We did it. We had the whole band back together. I love
We
it.
did it.
We
It
love
only
this so
took us
much.
an hour and 40 minutes.
Well, we had a lot of pent up issues to get through. Threads, watch this space. Reddit, watch this space. OpenAI lawsuits, watch this space. Who said this was going to be a boring tech summer?
You did.
All right.
Bring back the monopolies.
Whoop,
Hope
whoop.
your week